The quantum drives of the Terran Resilience had finally given out after 3 months of running on backup power through the Vegan Nebula. Liza Chen stared at the diagnostic readout with the kind of calm that came from surviving 17 first contact missions and 2 interstellar wars. The ship wasn't going anywhere without a complete drive overhaul. Proxima Station's the only port within range, her AI navigator announced in its perpetually cheerful tone. Estimated repair time, 72 hours. Liza had laughed then. 72 hours turned into 4 days, and she found herself practically living at the spaceport's repair bay, watching James Murphy work. James was human, one of the few mechanics in this sector who understood Terran technology well enough to rebuild quantum drives by hand. His daughter, Emma, was 7 years old with grease-stained overalls and her father's determined jaw. She spent her days in the repair bay, building impossible contraptions from spare parts while James worked. The Zephyrians who ran Proxima Station found humans fascinating in the way most species did, as curiosities who somehow survived despite their obvious biological limitations. Liza had grown used to the three-eyed aliens' condescending chittering whenever she walked past their administrative offices. "Another human ship," they would whisper. "How do they manage to travel so far with such primitive bodies? No enhanced respiratory systems, no radiation-resistant skin, no redundant organs." On the second day, Liza watched James fabricate an entirely new quantum coupling from raw materials when the part suppliers claimed human-compatible components were impossible to source. His hands moved with the precision of someone who had learned to make the impossible work through sheer determination. "Dad says humans are good at fixing things," Emma announced, appearing beside Liza with a toy starship she'd built from discarded circuit boards. "He says we don't give up easy." "Your father's right," Liza replied, studying the child's creation. The toy shouldn't have been able to fly according to any known physics, yet it hovered perfectly above Emma's palm. On the third day, the Zephyrians informed James that the quantum stabilizers he'd ordered would take another week to arrive. "These human ships require such unusual specifications," the port administrator had explained with barely concealed disdain. James didn't argue. He simply disappeared into the scrapyard behind the repair bay and emerged 6 hours later with something that definitely wasn't a quantum stabilizer, but somehow performed the same function. Liza had seen enough jury-rigged solutions during the war to recognize genius when she saw it. "How?" she asked, running her scanner over the improvised component. "Human engineering," James replied with a tired smile. "When you can't buy what you need, you build what works." Emma nodded sagely. "Dad says humans are really good at pretending things are possible until they are." That evening, Liza found herself sharing dinner with James and Emma in their small quarters above the repair shop. The Zephyrians had been too busy to process her hotel reservation, and James had quietly offered his couch. "Mom left when I was little," Emma explained matter-of-factly while constructing something that resembled a miniature warp drive from her dinner utensils. "Dad says she went exploring the galaxy like all the brave human ladies do." James caught Liza's eye and shook his head slightly. The message was clear. Emma didn't need to know the darker truth yet. On the fourth day, the Terran Resilience hummed back to life with drives that somehow performed better than factory specifications. James had not only repaired the ship, he had improved it using nothing but salvaged parts and human ingenuity. "The power coupling efficiency is up 12%, Liza marveled, reading her instruments. "This shouldn't be possible." "Humans specialize in impossible," James replied, wiping grease from his hands. The Zephyrian port administrator had arrived to inspect the work, chittering disapproval at the crude human modifications, until his instruments showed the performance improvements. His mandibles clicked in confusion as he tried to understand how inferior human engineering had exceeded his species' technical capabilities. As Liza prepared to depart, Emma appeared at the ship's boarding ramp with her toy starship clutch in her small hands. "Will you be my new mom?" she asked with the straightforward honesty that only children possessed. The question hung in the recycled air of the docking bay. James started to apologize, to explain that Emma asked that question, of every kind woman who entered their lives, but Lisa held up her hand. She knelt down to Emma's level, studying the child's hopeful face. Here was a 7-year-old human girl who had already learned to build impossible things, who lived at the edge of known space with only her father's love and determination to guide her. Emma represented everything the galaxy constantly underestimated about humanity. The ability to thrive in conditions that would break other species, to find family where none existed, to create hope from scrap metal and stubbornness. "You know what?" Liza said, making a decision that would change 3 lives forever. "I think I've been waiting 4 days for exactly that question." She looked up at James, who was staring at her with a mixture of shock and desperate hope. "The Terran resilience needs a permanent engineer," Liza continued, "and I could use a family. The galaxy's a big place, and humans shouldn't explore it alone." Emma's toy starship began to glow with an inner light that defied several laws of physics, responding to the joy radiating from its young creator. In the background, the Zephyrian administrator chittered in bewildered frustration as he tried to explain to his superiors how humans had once again accomplished something that should have been impossible. They had built a family from nothing but hope in 4 days at a spaceport, and in a galaxy that constantly doubted human potential, that was the most human thing of all.